My name is Julie Pearson, Little Thunder. Today is Wednesday, May 25th, 2016, and I'm interviewing Charles Chapman for the Oklahoma Native Artists Project, sponsored by the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University. We're at Charles' home in Pawnee, Oklahoma. Charles, Pawnee artists have played a pretty big role on the Oklahoma Native art scene, and you are no exception. You've won numerous awards at Red Earth, Trail of Tears, and other major art shows. You were an honored or featured artist at Tulsa Indian Arts Festival. And your work was a mainstay in many Indian art calendars. I understand you've set aside your painting for a while for health reasons, but you're about to pick it up again. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
All right.
Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Pawnee, Oklahoma, at the Indian Hospital out there when it was still going, and then I grew up right here.
What did your folks do for a living?
Well, my dad was a carpenter and a farmer. This is the old home place, and after the folks passed away, my brother started buying my brothers and sisters out. Well, I wound up buying him out. So I kind of kept it together, except for about 10 acres over here that they petitioned off for 3 houses.
Oh yeah, and it's
So-
a beautiful place.
So I've been working on it, trying to make it pretty.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
There were 11 of us.
Where did you fall?
I'm second to the last. My little sister Linda, she's the last one.
Wow. How about your mom?
Well, she was a farmer lady.
Uh-huh.
And a good one. She made good fry bread and everything. You know, when she cooked, it was good. She canned everything. You know how it was in the old days.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your relationship with your grandparents on either side?
You know what? I never knew them. They were passed on before I realized. I didn't, like I say, never seen them.
How important was Pawnee culture and language for you growing up?
Well, the first 9 years of my life, when we lived out here on the farm with Mom and Dad, we kind of lived the old Indian way. Dad knew all that old stuff, you know. My dad, they took him off of Camp Creek, and he had braids down to here, couldn't speak a word of English, and took him and a bunch of the other boys up to Carlisle Indian School.
Oh.
And when they got up there, they ran away. And they made it all the
And they
way
made
back
it.
home. And they were just kids, 12, 13 years old. But anyway, I was always interested in the customs and things they were doing, the dances and everything. But really, I didn't think about it my whole life until I got back from Vietnam and started painting. Then I started studying the Pawnee tribe, and I started painting the history. And I've been doing that now for, I've been on the road about 25, 30 years, I think. Way back in the 80s when I started showing. And then, like I say, I was painting the history of the Pawnee tribe.
Right.
If that kind of interests, you could stop me and tell me.
Well, I was wondering, what other creative influences did you have in your family?
It was just me, and I've always been able to draw. And none of the rest of them ever done anything like that. But when I was a little bitty guy, over there on the floor, or, you know, when I got big enough to kind of walk around, I could draw and make it look like, you know, like an animal, and I was a little bitty. And then as I come up come up through high school, I won all the shows.
So even in like elementary school, were teachers noticing that you had a talent for art?
Mm-hmm. When I was, I went to the Indian school.
Okay.
And I was in the 4th grade. And I always kind of laugh about it, but Miss Trisdale, I was at the chalkboard. I was supposed to have been doing math or something, and I was over there. It was around Thanksgiving. And I was drawing a turkey on the chalkboard before she jumped down my throat and got me. And she said, what'd she say? Something about I couldn't draw my way out of a paper bag or something. And I always wondered, I wish she was alive to see me now. You know. But no,
Not exactly encouraging there.
No, from there I went to
Now, was it at Pawnee Indian School? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and
okay.
when it closed, I was in the 4th grade. And they sent us uptown to the town school. And then from the 5th grade on, every time they had a little art show, they had art classes, which I never had before.
Wow.
And we'd get to draw with, watercolors and things. And man, I could outdraw any of them, so I won all of them in grade school, And we just had another year left there. But then when we got in high school, they didn't have art. So it kind of went by the wayside until I came back from Vietnam. And you want me to tell you about who helped me get started?
Absolutely.
I got married. I was married. And I was living out on the ranch out there at Skeety. My brother owned 160 acres out there. And I was kind of with him on, what I was breaking horses and making money, me and my wife. Well, I started painting. I taught myself how to paint.
And you really hadn't picked up paint since high school at that point?
No. And I was kind of scared of it, really. But I was pretty good. And I was taking my paintings up to Fairfax to the horse sale. And I was selling them, not for a whole lot, or I'd trade them for a colt. And I gathered up about, I bet you I had 40-some horses that we were raising, and I'd break them and take them back, make money. But anyway, my nephew Richard Teeter and his wife Leanna, and Rich knew about this. He said, Charlie, why don't you take them paintings and go to art show? I said, what art show? I didn't even know they had art shows. And he said, now, if I get you lined up to go to one, will you go? And I said, yeah, I'll go. See what it's about, And so he got me lined up somehow. The first show I went to was down at Anadarko.
Oh, the expo? Indian Expo?
I guess that's what it was.
The big one in August.
I've never been down there. Yeah, they had booths everywhere. And I'll be dang if I didn't win first place in the oil division. First rattle out of the box.
Now, when you first started doing these paintings that you were taking into the horse sales and stuff, were they in watercolor or were they in oil from the beginning?
No, they were oil. I've always painted in oil.
Okay.
And like I say,
and it's not easy to paint in oil.
and not teach yourself.
Teach
you
yourself.
Know, and it's pretty rough. But I went along there for it. Took about 6 years or so before.
Right. Well, what did it feel like to win that first place at Anadarko?
We was happy.
And you had a little prize money too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was working. I was bringing home back then only about $300 a week, And we got down there and won the show. Sold that. I didn't sell that painting there, but I sold another one there for more money. I think I got $1,500 or $1,800 out of it.
Wow.
The first time, and boy, I thought that was really good. I said, baby, we going.
That was good. Now,
but that's how it all started.
Were you doing Indian subject matter when you were trading paintings for horses, or were you doing horses?
I was doing both.
Okay.
Cowboy and
Gotcha.
Indian paintings, and I still do some cowboys. Not many.
Right.
Probably I ought to do more, but.
Do those
But
Indian
then
cowboy paintings.
I got locked in. Me and Rich, like I say, he's the one that lined me up down there. He got this whole ball rolling. And then I started painting. I started studying. And I started painting these old ceremonies or painting the Indians how they really looked back then. It wasn't no Hollywood stuff. And my paintings took off. And I had a story with them that told about them, and that was the deal. And once I started that, I had to have them stories, because that's what everybody asked about. What is this? Why are they doing this? And I explained it in there, and that's what helped me the most.
Had you looked at, you mentioned, I think, in an article I read that you looked at a lot of Remington and Russell, too. You studied those guys for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I did that when I was trying to learn.
When you were trying to learn technique.
I said, look at this. You kind of overwhelmed by what they could do. But yeah, I practiced. Don't like to tell people that. I had it right up there looking, boy.
That's how artists learn, though.
Yeah.
They learn by reproducing or trying to figure out how it was done. How about Brummett Echo Hawk? Were you familiar with, had you seen any of his work?
Yeah, I know Brummett.
Yeah.
I've known Brummett all my life. Him and my brother, that bunch, they all hung out. They raised together,
Well, I just know some Native artists, when they tried to do a more realistic, what you call a Western style, more realistic style, sometimes people, sometimes they would meet with some criticism. I don't know if that was a response you encountered.
As far as I'm concerned, even way back when I was little, drawing people, animals, I could hit it. And half of this painting is drawing. You got to be able to get everything in proportion. And then you got to know what you're painting about. That story I was telling you. You got to go through there and study and research and get everything right. Or you will get criticized, I guarantee you. So you got to keep on top. Yes, sir. Well, I'm going to tell you something, what happened. I was showing up in Denver, and I had a painting there, and there was a bunch of people. I bet you there were 20 people standing around there, because they liked to hear me talk about them. And I was talking about this one. I forget what it was about now, but I was telling the people, and then there was one guy in the back. He said, that's wrong. I said, what do you mean it's wrong? He said, well, I study Indians. And what he was talking about is something that my dad wrote down on paper. My dad knew. So I gave him a book. I said, here, go read that. He went over there and read it. he came back and he put that book down and walked off. I sold about 15 prints on account of him. But that's what'll happen at a show a lot of times if you're not right with it.
That's a great story, yeah. You won your first, another big award at the Trail of Tears show, I think in 1986.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that, do you remember what the subject was on that one?
You know, it's been a long time ago.
Yeah. But it was Pawnee, was it Pawnee subject matter?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's all I painted.
That's all you do.
I painted Pawnee. It had to do with a bear doctor. I had a bear doctor, and then now I don't remember all of it, but I remember in the smoke, I had the smoke coming up, and went into it like a bear. Yeah, demonstration.
Neat. You're really well known for your portraits too, and I wonder what attracts you to painting people's faces.
It's just easy for me. Painting when you read about the doctors, they'll tell you how they painted their face. And a lot of times I'll just do like a portrait of them, but without doing the whole, everything they wear. And putting the color on them. Like if he was, we'll say a beaver doctor in the story, where this beaver came to the doctor. It took him around. No, it took him around, but the bank of that, where the water was blue. And in the first ceremonies the Ponies have in the spring, when they go in the mud lodge, they all paint blue. Every one of them. And then I'll paint the face, and then I'll paint like that the whole, or have him dancing or whatever in the doctor dance. And excuse me, I paint the doctors. That is real interesting. Studying about the doctors and how they got their medicine and you know, and how they used it. It was real. They healed, you know. And the doctors paint different than the warriors. Right. So you have to, you know, both the war societies painted different. And you had to know what war society you were talking about. Because some of them painted all white, all black, all red. And then they have a society called, I think, Young Dog. They could paint any way they wanted, you know. Just make up their own deal.
Right. Sometimes, you did a lot of horses too, I think, and you kept horses for a while, but...
That's right down my alley.
Right.
Because I've raised horses all my life.
Since you got horses for your first paintings too. So is that helpful when you're painting a scene? You know, you're painting warriors on horseback and you've got horses, you can go out there and...
You know what? I've never painted from a picture.
You just knew.
I do it in my head right on the canvas back there. And you got to correct, you're always correcting to get that horse just right, you know, and the man just right. And because his size to the horse got to be right and everything. But it's just a lot of correction on it sometimes. And then sometimes it takes me years to get it right. I'll have a painting back there a long time. And you know, I can have a painting that I've had there for 6 years that keeps whipping me, you know. I'll try and I know it's not right. So I just put it up. And then there's times I could be laying there in bed at night thinking about it and get up and put that picture on the easel and know exactly what I was doing wrong. And it just would just flow together. And I could finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that funny how a painting will do that to you?
Right.
Would you?
Sometimes the business side of art is sort of the hardest to figure out. How did you know how to approach that?
The selling and everything. I think it was about the second or third year I was showing over at Tulsa. Well, Woody Crumble was there. And he came over and he seen my paintings. And he said, "Young man, let me tell you something. You're the first one so far that's painting with oil, that's painting your history, and doing it the right way." And then I got to talking to him, and he got to talking. He said, "Charlie, tell you what you got to do. You got to sell yourself." He said, "When them people come in your booth, don't just sit there. You get up and you talk to them." He said, "Talk to them about anything. It don't have to be about that artwork. Let them know you." And he said, "You'll sell your paintings. The paintings will sell themselves." And he said, "With what you've got, with the history, and the stories with them," he says, "you'll go a long way." And by George, he was right. I listened to him, because when somebody come in my booth, I'm up talking, and it works. The more of these little Indians need to learn that. When they go out there and you just sit behind that desk, you won't sell. You got to get up and present yourself, And that's how I make it.
Great advice, and great to get it from Woody Crumble too.
Yeah.
And that compliment.
No, he used to have a studio out in Cimarron, New Mexico. And every time I'd go that way, I'd stop and stay with him. I had Carmen with me, my daughter. She was little, and I took her to all the shows with me, and the ladies took care of her, But we'd always stop at Woody's and stay overnight. Cut out again.
How neat.
He was a good old man. I really liked him. Yeah, well, what was I going to do? I went out to Cimarron. Let's see, how did it happen? I think I did a show there, and then I went on to California. And as I was coming back, I was going to trade originals with him.
Oh.
And by dang if he didn't pass away.
Oh my goodness.
Before I got back. I didn't know it, but he had a whole bunch of original oils over at Gilchrist. He bought half of them anyway when he was the artist in resident over there.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, no, he was a good one, boy. He'd keep my head to the grindstone.
What's a funny travel story you might be able to share?
Funny.
Because you did a funny travel story.
Travel. Dang, I don't know. You should have asked me a long time ago. Let me think about it.
Well, if it comes to you, we'll put it in.
Yeah.
What's one of the best compliments you've received on your work? Might have been what Woody said, but one of the best compliments
Him.
you've gotten. Yeah.
What he said about it.
Yeah.
And that I go, just keep up what I do and what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. What's the hardest painting you ever did? The hardest one to do?
Let's see. Yeah, none of them are really hard, but that eagle back there, putting them feathers on that eagle and getting them just right. I think that's a hard. I ain't never gonna paint another eagle.
Really time intensive, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It really was. It took me a long time to paint it, but I finally got it done.
What about commissions? Did you ever take commissions?
You know, I did a few times, and I don't like to do that. They always want to hurry you, and an artist, you can't hurry them. They have to be in the mood, or I do. I got to be in the mood, and when it's there, I can do real good work. But if I'm forcing myself to hurry up and finish for somebody, you know, that I took commission on, no, I quit that. I'll paint them for me now, and then they want them, they can buy them.
Now you've got work at the, or you used to have quite a bit of work at the Pawnee Art Center in Nebraska?
Yeah, there's a little place up there. Forget the name of it now.
Is it Thunderbird?
No, it's a little bitty town called Brigadoon or Briga something. And anyway, they took some of my prints and stuff up there. I don't have prints out like all the other guys.
Okay.
You know, that's probably the only place right now
Okay.
that I have any artwork out. And usually, when I quit painting, they come here. So,
That's
you know,
great.
and that's one good place I've found that does pay you and give you a commission, you know. And there's been other places where I've left artwork and they were lost. They closed up shop and took the artwork with them somewhere.
That's terrible. Yeah, you have made a few prints, right? Did you work with a gallery to print, or
No,
did you print on your own?
I printed all mine on my own.
Okay.
I got 30-some prints,
Wow.
like 33. And then I have, right here lately, these G-clays, they call them, prints on canvas. And I like that. I've got about probably 8 of them now.
Great.
And I like it because I can order like 10 and not have to order the whole, you know, shoot match and
Right.
have to have a place to store it and everything, you know. It's real handy, you know.
And the color reproduction is nicer
Yep.
in the canvas.
Yeah, it looks like a real, you know, oil.
Right.
When you get them stretched, they're nice.
Have you ever tried your hand at sculpture or three-dimensional?
Never have. Never have. All I've ever done was just painted, you know. That takes up enough of my time. Takes all of it, really.
They had the Pawnee Arts Association here for a while. Were you involved with it a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, I was with them a while, and they were, you know, trying to get it going real good, and I don't know what they're doing anymore, if it's even there, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they're super active right now.
Mr. Berry, when he used to have that show up there, you know, we all went up there and showed on, I think it was 4th of July. But when he passed away, I quit going. He was a good friend of mine.
Some of the younger Pawnee artists, like Rusty Diamond, you know, they've mentioned that they take your advice on doing research. What kinds of research are important to do?
Well, you got to go back to them. You got to find there's books on the Ponies, and you just have to get in there and read what the old ones said. Like my dad, he used to translate for the old doctors and the old fellows anyway that couldn't speak English. And what he writes down, you can use it as the truth. Then there's a lot of times fellas come from like New York or somewhere and didn't go to them old fellas in the right way. And them old guys, they would lie to them, and they would write it down. So you kind of got to know what author and stuff to believe, you know. And what that does, that takes reading a whole bunch of books and then reading what it says. And eventually you'll kind of find out the truth.
Figure out the reliable ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, with all the Pawnee bands, and there's a lot of complexity, besides the fact that Native people sometimes get stereotyped, tribes get stereotyped, you know, by Hollywood.
Yeah.
And how have you tried to counter that with your painting?
I just paint the truth. It's all you can do, you know. I know they have movies and things, and that depends on who they get, you know, to tell them about the Ponies and how they did it and everything. And I see different families around here think different ways. You know how Indians are.
Yes, yeah.
So.
What changes have you noticed from like the 1980s when you started really going great guns to today in terms of Native art? What changes have you observed?
You know, when I started painting these Indians, the way it said in the book, and like I was over there with, you know, like Bill Rabbit them in Tulsa, and I was selling them paintings, originals. And I forgot, I lost my train of thought because I was trying to think about over there. What did you ask me?
What changes you noticed on the art?
Well, what I noticed was after I started painting the real thing, other guys started studying their tribe and learning more about their tribe and painting them the way the tribe did it.
Going from Pan Indian to their own tribally specific.
Yeah, they made them. I made them kind of study, you know, and learn about their tribe. Because a lot of times, you know, they would go to a show, there'd be a painting there, all different colors and everything, and you walk up and you ask them what it means. It didn't mean a thing. It's just a pretty painting. But then later on, the same fellow started coming with historical stuff. And that's good. That's a good thing. Because they learned about their own tribe.
Right. In 1990, you probably remember the newer version of the Indian Arts and Crafts Act was passed, requiring, you know, proof of enrollment, or your tribe had to certify that you could paint that particular tribe.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that, and what was its impact in your view?
Well, I just went along with it. You know, they said you had to have your degree of blood, and each tribe is different, you know, and getting in a show, but as long as you had that, what do they call it?
CDIB.
Yeah. And you present that, and then you could show. you know. So it didn't bother me much, you know, and I never really thought about it much.
What would you tell a young Native artist starting out? What would be your advice?
You know what? I'd have to look at it and see how much talent he had. First thing you got to be able to do is draw. And if everything was out of proportion and stuff, I would have him get a picture and have him try to transfer it on paper. And have him practice drawing. That's half. You got it half licked. If you can draw that like you're drawing a person, and you have everything in proportion, the eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and then you start, after you can draw, then you start putting paint on. And that's a whole nother story, because it'll scare you. It will. It did me. Well, if I'd have had a teacher, maybe not. But I taught myself, and man, I was a little skittish, you know, to really get it. And then I learned that if you make a mistake in oil, you just let it dry and gold. And then when I learned that, I took off. Yep. Because I thought it had to be perfect the first time, but it don't.
How has your subject matter changed over the years?
Really has. I still paint the same stuff. I read the stories, then I visualize it in my head at what I think it would look like. Then I go in on the canvas and start drawing. Start drawing until I get everything just right. But it all comes out of here. That's the way I do it.
How about your use of color? Has that changed over the years?
I still use bright colors. I like bright colors. That's one thing Woody Crumble told me. He said, Charlie, the colors you use, he said, you know, once you get down the road a ways and people get to know you, they're going to know you by the paintings, the colors you use in them and everything. And then, you know, sometimes I try to, you know, kind of mellow it out. And it works on some of them. Most of them don't. I just go ahead.
Let those bright colors loose. So you explained when you paint, you always sketch directly on the canvas first.
Yeah. Yeah, I went through all that where you put it on paper and do that transfer and that was just too much. What I do, I just get me some paint out and a little thinner and a little bitty brush, and then I start drawing till I get it balanced and everything, you know. Then I'll start painting on it.
What is your creative process once you get an idea? Do you write it down in a notebook, or do you just go straight to
That key, it's all right here. I can see it. I guess you could call it seeing it, but I can visualize what it's going to look like. And then when I'm painting them, I'll have them all on. Everybody else, they'll be half done. Everybody else will come and say, boy, that's real pretty. I ain't even done with this yet. You wait till I get done, and boy, and I'll paint, and I'll know. I don't know why. It'll just jump out at you and put the brush down, or you'll ruin it. You'll overpaint. You gotta quit. And just knowing that helped, you know, knowing when to quit. 'Cause I've done it a lot of times. I kept painting. I messed the whole thing up. And I'd have to put it aside and wait, like I told you. Wake up one night and get it out where I could finish.
Do you work on, because you do sometimes have to put things down, do you work on several paintings simultaneously?
Oh, back when I was showing real hard, I had probably 20 paintings at least going at one time. Because I'd start painting until it got wet, what I call wet. And I'd put it back and get the other one. And I was in a hurry. This when it was pushing me to get enough paintings to go again, like within 2 weeks. And then I'd get the next one down, and then next one. And I'd stay up. Oh, I'd get maybe 2-3 hours of sleep at most and get back after it. I mean, just day after day after day. And all of a sudden, they'd all kind of come together. And there I had 20 new pieces to take.
Oh my gosh.
But that's the way it does with me, you know. Just keep after it.
What's maybe the most fun place you ever traveled to? The most fun show you ever did?
You know, I had fun at that first show that my wife was with me down at Anadarko. Because all the artists got out there after the show was over. Jeannie Bells and her husband and the banker and them. And they had kidneys. We was up there. We was out there drinking beer and eating kidneys. I like that. But we had fun down there, you know.
Yeah, fun. Well, what would you say has been one of the high points of your career so far?
You mean showing?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe just meeting somebody or whatever was a high point of your career.
Dang, I don't know. Never thought of it.
Or maybe an award that you're especially proud of.
Probably show at Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. Being the featured
I was
artist.
a featured artist over there with, you know, all of them. That was pretty good. Yeah. Meeting and what's his name? That movie star? Forget his name now. But he was over there.
What movie was
He was in that. I think they were policemen or firemen or something. Wish I could remember his name.
Oh, not Adam Beach.
No.
Okay.
It was, I can't think of the name. But anyhow, I was fooling around with him. We had fun.
Fun. What's been one of the low points in your career?
You know, when I lost my wife. Because I quit there for a while. I lost her to lupus.
Oh,
You know.
sorry.
And I had the little baby. Carmen was just 2. And I had to start raising her. But once I got back painting, it was me and her. till she graduated from high school.
She was a show baby, huh?
We'd finish up there at Crow Fair, and that was in August. And then I'd want to go to Sturgis, but I had to get her back to start school. So, yeah, we had good times together.
How many shows did you do? You must have done
Everyone
almost
I could,
10.
Everyone I could get to.
10 a year, maybe?
Yeah.
More than that?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a lot of production.
Gets a lot of hurrying up, boy, and get it done. Yeah.
And what's the biggest painting that you've ever done?
Well, I bought a canvas for a big one, but I never did get to stretch it. I still got it down there. Right now, I don't have. Well, I got a paint back there where my machine is, you know, for my dialysis. I got everything set up right there, but I can't paint a very big one. There's a pretty good size one in that middle room. I'll show you.
We'll take a picture of it.
It's good size.
Yeah. Is that the eagle painting?
No,
Oh, it's a different
it's in
one.
that middle
Okay.
room.
Okay.
But I'd like to paint more great big ones, really. You know. Just haven't done it. I'll get around to it, though.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we take a look at your paintings?
Well, I don't know. You're the boss.
Well, if you think of it, we'll talk about it, but we'll just pause for a minute and get ready to look at some of your work.
Okay. Now, this belongs to a little girl down in Alabama.
Oh.
And she moved. And I guess she must have hit it because the paint cracked.
Oh.
And they sent it back to me to fix it.
To fix it. Uh-huh.
But what this is about, in the old days, them Pawnees, the women, they would go out and they would dig a place, forget, they call it a cache, I think, where they would dig down and dig it out like this to put their beans and pumpkin and cornbread and stuff in there, and then they would cover it, you know, with logs and dirt, and they would be the only ones that knew where that was at. So when they came back from like being off somewhere, they would have something they could go to, get corn, beans, and everything to eat. And that's what they're doing here. This is a parfleche right here of meat, and then they got corn and stuff, whatever they put in there, and they'd put it in the layers, and it would last a long time. Let me tell you, see my sign called the Vault of the Heavens, lying down the middle of the breath of heaven.
Oh,
Now, that has to do with the buffalo. And a fella up in Nebraska was building a barn, and he dozed off, and he uncovered one of these pits. And my dad and a couple other older Indians went up there. Dad got down in there, and he was giving things out. And the meat was in a parfleche and had that insignia on it. And then Dad and them, they ate everything but the meat. It was over 100 years old. The meat was the only thing that wasn't any good.
my goodness.
But then my dad translated for a book called The Lost Universe. And it was a hardback, and at the time, and they used that insignia on the front of the book. And I took it for me since my dad handed out that parfleche with it on it. Yeah.
So
that's what that's about, right
I
there.
see. Now,
And you kind of notice
for your
that.
artist remark, you for your artist signature. Let's talk about your signature a little bit.
Oh, uh-huh.
How did you come up with it?
That just like
Just like you told me.
I just
Yeah.
told you that.
Okay,
that
from
was
that.
on that was on a parfait.
That's what I thought you were saying, that it
my
came from
dad
that.
handed out.
Right.
And I took it as that.
Right. And sometimes it's hard to figure out where to put your signature, you
Yeah.
know, or how to work it into the painting without being too much. But that's really neat.
Yeah, you kind of got to leave a place for that signature.
Okay, we're looking at one of your giclées here, and it was reproduced in a calendar, I guess. Did you remember the title on it?
I don't know if this one was or not.
Okay,
It might
Maybe
not have
this
been
one
or it
wasn't.
might have been on the calendar.
right.
It's been so long.
What can you tell us about it?
Okay, well, this is one of the pieces I was painting. When I study and read through the book, it tells me how they wore different things and why they wore it. And this has to do with the feather. And in this painting, this fella, he's called Three Coos. In the tribe, when a fellow went out and he touched the enemy, that was better than killing them because you got up close. And if you did that once, you got one feather, slantways. Twice you have feathers slantways, either direction. And then the third time, the third coup, is a crow feather, straight up. And then after this, the 4 or 5s are gone like that's when they started their calumet, But that's what this one is about. He's called Three Coup.
Three cool.
Yeah.
Neat. How about titles? Are they very important to you? Do they come easy, or are they hard to?
They come along with the reading and of what I'm doing. The title to most of the paintings they're kind of in there when you read and you decide to paint something. And then the title will go along with it.
Okay, here's another giclée. What can you tell us about this one?
If I remember right, I think this is called Bringing in the Buffalo Ponies.
Nice looking horses.
Before they went out on to hunt buffalo, they had their own ponies. They had buffalo ponies, then they had war ponies. And I'm pretty sure I titled this Buffalo Ponies. And you can see by the horses that I draw horse. I'm pretty good at horses, and people.
Right.
On them, and that's what this is. It's bringing in the buffalo ponies, and then I painted this horse here. In our tribe, if you have a horse like if he was solid red or bay, and he had a solid white face like this horse right here, these kind of horses are known as giveaway horses. In our tribe, that would be like a man. You show your stature when you do something like that. You giving a horse away is like giving somebody $1 million, back in the old days. But that's what these kind of horses were that had these solid
They were
heads.
special.
Yeah, they were
For giveaway.
Because you don't get one, probably maybe every 50 years or so, one will come out like that, a colt,
And how about what did they want their buffalo horses? What kind of qualities did they want?
They wanted a good running horse, a stout horse, and what they would do a lot of times, they had these, I call them mung beans. They'd smash them up. And just before they'd go out, or even at war when they was going in, to battle, they would give that horse some of it. And them horses would start dancing, make them high, like a person.
Make them fearless,
Make
huh?
them ready, yeah.
Wow.
Both things, that horse will run right up there and get the job done. Yep.
Well, Charles, thank you very much for your time today. It's been great visiting with you.
All right.